Hey, me and Matt here, and with me as always is Killer Kyle for this segment of Wheels of Fury. And before I get started, I know I did my WrestleMania review and how I thought it was. What did you think of it?
It was good. Really well done. The one thing I found really interesting about it is it looks like they've become more technical with the things they do now. Because, I mean, you had the match with Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt, and they're projecting images of maggots, cockroaches,
Yeah,
night crawlers in the middle of the ring, and then you got like Randy Orton walking to the ring and the snake following him down the runway, and you got, of course, your typical fireworks and that. So that just goes to show you kind of how far now WrestleMania has become.
yeah, and I mean, a lot of people said that was lame, but I thought the images in the ring was actually, yeah, kind of cool. I mean, we all know that it was not real, obviously, but
Oh yeah.
um,
See, I don't see how you can say something like that is lame because it's different
mhm,
from what they used to do, and it's not something you would expect.
right,
And they leads into also the fact of kind of more how much more powerful you could say Bray Wyatt has become since christening himself or baptizing himself in Sister Abigail's ashes.
yeah, and it was interesting just for the fact that yeah, it ran 5 hours, which I believe it kind of did last
Yeah,
year.
it did last year.
So, but no, nonetheless, it was very cool to see that. I already said my piece, so I'm not going to say too much about it. But
Yeah.
main topic here today is the retirement of one of the biggest wrestling stars in the WWE/WWF, and that is the Undertaker. Now, I did
Yeah.
a little slide video that I posted yesterday, and yeah, it's kind of funny because I knew that he would retire eventually. Most people would think, oh, it was going to be WrestleMania 30 when the streak ended, but unfortunately, that's not the case. Not saying that his match with Wyatt was interesting, or who did he? Yeah, Shane McMahon was interesting, but just the fact that okay, so he retired at WrestleMania 30 does not, or he undefeated streak ended at WrestleMania 30. Do you now think maybe it was time for him to call it quits? Because here's a guy that at even WrestleMania 30 looked tired and worn out, but that's probably just me.
I think Undertaker would have gone as long as he felt he could go or as long as he wanted to. And maybe now was the time for him to call it a career and focus on himself, his health, and his family, and who knows, he could get into something else, maybe WWE related, maybe outside of WWE.
Yeah, because, I mean, you can see even Shawn Michaels goes back to the WWE every once in a while.
Yeah.
He was at the kickoff show
Yeah, he did the
for
kickoff.
WrestleMania.
Yeah,
stuff
and he
like
did
that.
it for Royal Rumble as well. Of course, Royal Rumble was in his hometown, so of course
Yeah.
he's going to make an appearance.
So who knows? Maybe Undertaker may come back and do that.
I had read on a website that I'm not exactly sure when, but Undertaker is going to be getting a hip replacement surgery. He had something done temporarily to kind of make it so that he could keep wrestling, and he was worried about getting the full hip replacement surgery because he didn't want it to end his career. But now that he's kind of decided that he's going to end his wrestling career on his own terms,
yeah.
he I'm not exactly sure when, but he's going to go through with the full hip replacement surgery. I'm not sure which hip it is, but yeah, he needs a hip replacement. And to think, the man's only 52.
Yeah.
So,
But, you know, it was a little sentimental for everybody who watched wrestling through the years, have known The Undertaker through the years. I started watching wrestling 25 years ago, and the first thing that I remember seeing was there was a promo with Undertaker and Ultimate Warrior versus Papa Shango and the Berserker. That was really my first introduction to The Undertaker.
yeah.
And then, of course, SummerSlam '92 with Kamala.
Yeah. And I mean, those of you that followed Undertaker throughout his entire career, maybe even grew up with The Undertaker from 1990 when he debuted at the Survivor Series up until this year's WrestleMania. You know he's had a long career, one hell of a career, and just the feuds he's had against guys like Mankind, Kane, with his brother Kane as a tag team, Rock,
Stone Cold
Austin,
Steve Austin, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels,
Ric Flair,
Ric Flair, Jake Roberts, Hulk Hogan. I don't know if he might have had a match or two with Randy Savage. I can't,
something.
maybe. But,
But yeah, to think about it though, from 1990 until this year, 2017, that's
mm,
26, 27 years, something like that.
yeah, I'd say 27 years. Almost 20. Well, it would be 27 years in November. But,
Yeah, so I mean,
yeah.
damn near 30 years in the wrestling business, 25 WrestleManias, and in those 25 WrestleManias, only to lose twice. That's pretty damn good.
It's, well, it's funny though. You get a guy like Mark Calloway who was in WCCW, or no, I think it was WCW
Yes,
with Teddy Long. He was in a tag team. He was
it was.
the Punisher. He was Mad Mark Calloway. He was somebody else, I think.
He wrestled in Japan, I think it was, under Punisher Dice Morgan
Yes.
was his name.
Yes.
And yes, he was managed by Teddy Long with Dangerous Dan Spivey as the Twin Towers.
Right.
Or
No.
Skyscrapers.
Yes.
That's what it was, not the Twin Towers. Twin Towers were Big Boss Man and a team.
But also, I think he was managed by Paul Heyman at one point, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. I thought I saw him with Paul Heyman. And
I know they did a thing with Undertaker and the Dudleys and Paul Heyman, but Heyman was aligned with the Dudleys, and Paul Bear was with Undertaker, and
you're talking about 2003 or no, 2004 or something.
There was a match.
The Great American Bash.
Yes.
Yeah, that was an interesting match, but I'm talking like I thought it was Paulie Dangerously. I could be wrong, but I thought it was him. You know, like with Teddy Long. I'm not sure, but the thing of it is you get this guy doing all these gimmicks, and the one gimmick that he sticks with for 25. Well, yeah, I'd say 25. No, more than that. Anyways, 26 years as The Undertaker. And it's like, really, you see a lot of these guys, they go through a lot of gimmicks,
And they failed.
and then they fail. But you get this guy who, you know, has an awesome gimmick. He's over 6 feet. Like I said, a big guy who can dive like a luchador
Yeah.
and stuff like that. I think the only other person at that time was probably Big Van Vader, although he wasn't even diving that much.
No, his thing was more or less just a moonsault from
Yeah.
the ropes.
But it was very. I think the only person that, well, no, I think, well, the person that didn't wrestle Taker would have been Andre the Giant.
Taker.
Yeah. So it's a very interesting thing, just to look back and think, holy shit, we're old. Because, we grew up with The Undertaker,
Yeah.
even though I stopped watching wrestling for a while. Because I remember going back to it when I started back up, and I'm looking at pictures, and it's like, oh, Undertaker's wearing a mask for some reason. And I don't remember that, but,
I think what that was is he either had a broken nose or a broken eye socket or
I
something.
think it was an eye socket, actually. I don't.
And he wore the mask
Yeah.
to protect his face. And I remember it was him feuding with King Mabel. He was known at that time.
Yeah.
Later become Veteran Big Daddy V, but it was a leg drop from Mabel that essentially did the damage, but instead of taking time off to heal, he just wore a mask and kept going. That's just like, I'm not exactly sure what the match was or how it happened, but Undertaker ended up with broken ribs. And again, instead of taking time off to heal, what they would do is they take a flat jacket or bulletproof vest, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
and basically tape it around the midsection of the Undertaker so he could wrestle. The man basically never took a day off.
No, and I think that's one of the better reasons that he finally called it quits, because, basically didn't take a day off. Didn't, I mean, imagine being that size and doing all that and not having damage to your body. I can't even imagine, the pain he's in every day.
Oh, for sure.
That match, I think the match that I thought he would for sure leave was the first match with Triple H, or the second match with Triple H at WrestleMania. Because he won, but he didn't leave
On his own.
on his own. Yeah.
He didn't walk out of the pill. He walked out of the ring, but then he basically collapsed.
Yeah, so my friend was watching with me, and he thought that maybe he was having a heart attack or something. But obviously that wasn't the case.
No, it wasn't a heart attack. It was just basically like he was exhausted and sore from the beating the two of them put on each other, and he just wasn't able to walk out on his own power, so they had to get one of those training vehicles that you see football players getting taken out on when they get a knee injury or whatever, and basically put the Undertaker on that and wheel him backstage. Then, of course, there was after the match he had with Brock, he got out of the ring. He went backstage, but after he got backstage, he collapsed, and then they had to put him in an ambulance and whatever.
Oh, you saw that part. I didn't.
Well,
I remember watching there was a behind the scenes and Vince McMahon, somebody get 911 or something.
I need some help in here, and it was for The Undertaker.
Yeah. But yeah, you know, if Undertaker wasn't knocked out, which he was, he probably would have kept the streak alive. But apparently he wanted it to end at 30. I don't know why. But there it is, you know.
Yeah.
Favorite Undertaker match.
Ooh.
And I know there's probably a lot of them.
Oh yeah, man. How could you say? How could you say there wasn't an Undertaker match not be your favorite? Probably the most memorable Taker match for me would probably have to be Undertaker and Kane in an Inferno match. Technical difficulties. Just want to make sure the camera's rolling.
The Inferno match with who?
Kane.
Yeah,
That was
a good match. Yeah, he's had a lot of good ones. Go ahead, sorry.
I mean, you could look back over the years and like I said, Undertaker versus Kane in an Inferno match. Undertaker and Mankind in a Buried Alive match. Undertaker and Ric Flair in I think it was a No Holds Barred match or something.
Yeah, WrestleMania 18, one of the best Ric Flair matches I think I've seen. Yeah.
The previous 17, Undertaker and Triple
Yeah,
H.
the first encounter.
No
and-
DQ.
Yeah.
Of course, the numerous Hell in a Cell matches Taker had.
Yes, of course, the one being infamous with Mankind, 1998, King of the Ring.
As God is my witness, he's broken in half.
Somebody stop the damn match! You know,
Yeah.
and it's funny because Undertaker, when he was American Badass, he used to say, I'll make you famous.
Yes.
And, you know, I think that's true. I mean, obviously Mick Foley was a famous wrestler, but after King of the Ring, you know,
Yes.
he became even more popular, I think.
Yeah. Because, I mean, could you imagine getting your ass thrown off a 20-foot steel cage through an announce table, getting up, coming back up on the top of this very same cage you got thrown off of to continue to wrestle, and then get your ass thrown through the roof of the cage, landing on the mat, having a steel chair smack you in the face, having one of your teeth embedded in your nose, and you still keep going.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, Mick Foley is one badass motherfucker. But no, so there's that. I mean, well, Triple H, you know, people are probably gonna, even I would say that's too much. You know, that was cheating, having to face a wrestler 3 times at WrestleMania and call it 21-1. Well, anyways, yeah, I think, to be fair with those matches, I think they were all pretty cool. I mean, they were basically no holds barred.
And I mean, you could argue the fact of, what exactly The Undertaker's WrestleMania streak was, but there's no denying it was a hell of a streak nonetheless.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And, you know, I'm always going to think it's too bad that we're never going to see Undertaker versus John Cena, Undertaker versus Sting, Undertaker versus Goldberg, which I fucking wanted to see for 11 years. And I know that because I used to, well, whatever, play fantasy wrestling, and that's what I would do. Put those two together. So we're not going to get to see that, unfortunately. Streak versus streak. Goldberg's WCW streak.
Yeah.
But,
And I had actually seen not that long ago one of the wrestling websites, I think it was, Undertaker had originally wanted Cena as his opponent for this year's WrestleMania, but I think it ended up being Vince McMahon had other ideas and ended up being Undertaker and Roman at this year's WrestleMania.
yeah, that was interesting. I mean, that was fine and all, but at the same time, well, that's another thing too. A lot of people are gonna say, well, if it was his last match, he probably should have won. But at the same time, here's a guy who only wrestles once a year now, but also you gotta take into consideration he's not as good as he once was. He gets beaten up. He's gonna take longer for him to recover. I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to put that into words. But
I mean, for sure, if Undertaker wanted to win, he for sure would have said so, but maybe he's said, let Roman win, let Roman beat me, and that'll be my last match, last WrestleMania.
yeah, and it is symbolic that here's a guy that is standing in the ring and everyone around him is cheering, and then they go to the replay, and then they come back and he's fully in uniform. Then he takes his coat off, then he takes his gloves off, and he takes his hat off, puts it in the ring, and then leaves. And it's like, okay, now we know that he's not fucking around and he's finished.
Yeah, I've seen MMA fighters do that when they're going to retire. They usually will take off their gloves and leave them in the middle of the ring as a symbol of that's it, they're done. And so basically, Undertaker took that and used it, but not just the gloves, his coat and the hat as well. And over the last 5 years, you could say, Undertaker's look he would still have the coat and the hat, but it was more of an updated version.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he had, like, the outlaw look, if you will, with, like, the red band around the hat and, like, the metal things around the hat as well. And then this year's WrestleMania, he had the same look, but it was more like, you look at the coat and it wasn't just like a plain coat. It was, you could see things on it.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So,
yeah. And the thing, too, that really, I guess, solidifies the retirement is having Jim Ross come out. Jim Ross to call the match. The guy who has been belittled by WWE, has been gone for a few years, has gone to New Japan for a while, came back, and this is like a week or so after his wife dies and stuff like that, and then he comes out and it's like everything seems forgotten just for one night.
well, I mean, you look at recently over the last few months of people that have come back that basically have let water under the bridge.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got Kurt Angle now.
Yes.
WrestleMania, you had the Hardys, you got Mickey James, you got the Ultimate Warrior, Jake the Snake,
Mm.
Scott Hall, you got several others. So I mean,
Bret Hart.
yes, Bret Hart. But I'm talking about like just recently.
Yeah, I
though.
know. Yeah.
So I think within that time away, they all these guys kind of went off, did their own thing, completely divulged wrestling from their lives and carried on, and then when they felt the time was necessary, come back to WWE and go from there. I mean, Mickey James is wrestling again in WWE on SmackDown.
Yeah.
She might go for another run with the Women's Championship at some point. You got the Hardys coming back, winning the Raw Tag titles
I
at
know.
WrestleMania. So, and you got Kurt Angle now being the first being inducted in the Hall of Fame, and then you got him being the Raw general manager. So
That's funny how that works. I mean, never say never.
no.
You know.
Then of course you had the debut of the Revival on Raw.
And then Ty
You
Dillinger.
had Ty Dillinger and Shinsuke Nakamura on SmackDown.
It's very.
Things are changing.
Things are changing for the better. I was a little pissed off. Sorry to cut you off, but I have to say this. I was a little pissed off that, unlike Ric Flair, who retired after WrestleMania 24, they didn't give Undertaker the respectful send off that he should have had. Will it come in the future? I don't know.
Or maybe Undertaker just wanted to have one more match, win or lose, that be it, and just he probably didn't want to have the whole big proper send off and like a goodbye to the fans and to the wrestlers and have the wrestlers come out on stage and applaud him.
No.
And but I think that's also a testament to the Undertaker character itself.
Yeah, I guess.
Because I mean, he'd have a match, you wouldn't see him for months, and then all of a sudden here he is popping back up, for a match against somebody somewhere. So Undertaker basically just wanted to ride off into the sunset
Yeah, well,
and leave it at that.
well, and who knows what the future is going to hold. I know for a lot of hardcore wrestling fans that have watched wrestling for years, and it's understandable. You got a lot of the old guys, oldish guys, leaving wrestling, and stuff. Like you have Shawn Michaels. Yeah, Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair, as I've said, and now Undertaker. And now the hardcore fans, they're gonna go, well, what's left? Why are we still watching the show? I don't know. I mean, so yeah, Undertaker is gone, but now you have the Hardys and you got Kurt Angle. Not that that will fix anything, but people have to retire sometime. You can't just keep holding on to them.
And not only that, but it's.
Hold on.
We'll be back momentarily.
Part 2 of this epic
Undertaker discussion.
Undertaker discussion, and I promise you it's not gonna be an hour long like our WrestleMania review. Although that was pretty fucking cool.
That was good. That was good.
So, anyways, where the hell were we?
I had just started to say something and their doorbell rang and see if I could remember what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, as much as you've got Kurt Angle and Mickey James and the Hardys coming back, you also got to take into consideration the fact of it's now more about, well, I doesn't say more, but it's a lot about the future of the wrestling, the future of WWE. Because I mean, like I said, you got the revival on Raw, you got Ty Dillinger and Shinsuke Nakamura on SmackDown. Before that, you had Sami Zayn, you had Kevin Owens, you got Samoa Joe, and various others. So I mean, as much as okay, yeah, there's still Big Show, Mark Henry, Kane the odd time, and a few others. It's mainly about the the future of wrestling and the stars of NXT eventually coming up and getting their shot at the main roster.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's interesting to me. You have these guys. They're not exactly new. They're veterans, but they're new in the WWE.
Yeah.
And then you get the guys from TNA. So really, you don't have a shortage of guys. But the fact of the matter is that Holloway or Undertaker, let's say just the Undertaker, a guy was a ring general. He was the goat,
Oh yeah.
the goat, if you will, And without the Undertaker's guidance, how's this? How is it gonna work out? Well, it's probably gonna work out fine because
Yeah.
or either you just pick up and go, or you go where you left off, basically. I guess.
Like we're trying to do with this video.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And it's not necessarily so much of the fact that, WWE is going to be desperate for people to have experience and be leaders of the locker room, leaders of the young guys. Because, I mean, you got, even though they're new to the WWE, you got guys that are well experienced in the wrestling business.
Yeah.
Like Matt was saying, you got guys from NXT. You got Austin Aries, you got Bobby Roode, you got Eric Young.
Yeah, from TNA.
You got Samoa Joe, Sami Zayn, and so on and so on. So,
and now Drew McIntyre is coming back to NXT. That's gonna be cool if they keep the theme music. But I mean, it's still one of the best shows NXT. One of the best shows in the WWE so far.
Yeah.
I think that whoever comes up next, because like I mentioned before, you get Shinsuke Nakamura making his debut on SmackDown. Ty Dillinger on Raw, a DIY on our Raw.
On her.
Yeah. And, it's pretty much the way it is right now. So it'll be cool just to see what comes next in the future.
And the thing about it too is, even though Nakamura didn't have a match, just the fact that he's there, people went nuts for him because he's such a good performer, and he has that enthusiastic energy that you just get so invested in him and behind him and cheer for him and want him to win or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, it's unfortunate that he couldn't get a third NXT title run, but he moved up in the world, so we'll see where it goes for him.
Yeah. And, just because now that he's on Smack, it all depends on what happens next week at the draft.
That as well, yes.
If you have the Intercontinental Championship on a Raw, then that would be a shame. Because you could see Shinsuke Nakamura, who was the IWGP Intercontinental Champion, go up for the WWE Intercontinental Championship. That would be interesting just to see that. Also, let's say Finn Balor goes to SmackDown. Or hell, even AJ. AJ stays on SmackDown. AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura, which isn't apparent. It's the talk right now, I've heard.
Well, the two of them had matches in New Japan, and from what I understand of it, they were amazing, amazing matches between the two of them. Then again, you look at any match Nakamura had on New Japan against whoever, they were really good. I mean, you had Nakamura against AJ, you had Nakamura against Tanahashi, you had
Tanahashi, Hiroshi
Hiroshi
Yeah.
Tanahashi,
Um,
you had Nakamura against Bad Luck Fale.
yes, Nakamura, and I'm drawing a blank. Kenta
Yeah,
or Hideo Itami. There's been a lot, and I could just picture it, but I can't think of the name right now. It's pissing me off. Oh yeah, Kota Ibushi.
yes.
There was a match I saw a couple weeks ago. With Shinsuke and Kota in the match.
The Golden Star.
The Golden Star. It's crazy that I'm drawing a blank right now. But anyways, well there it is.
That tends to happen.
Yep.
I mean, hell, there was one video we did about talking about Impact, and I blanked on Rebel, and you blanked on Josh Matthews, I think it was, or something like that. So we both had a mental blank in one video, so it's all good.
Yeah. Well, that's the main video that I was planning on doing. We're talking in a different topic now. Is the Undertaker.
Yeah.
But so he talked about one of the best matches that he's had. I said Triple H. I was gonna say, even though he faced Triple H 3 times at WrestleMania, it was like 2 no holds barred matches, and then there was, well, one was Falls Count Anywhere, I think,
Yeah.
and then one was a no holds barred, and then one was Hell in a Cell, and those were cool.
Yeah.
Any matches that come to mind that are not your favorite Undertaker matches? Because there was that match with Rey Mysterio at Royal Rumble I didn't much care for.
Yeah. It's like I said before about, how can you not say that there was an Undertaker match that wasn't your favorite? I don't really think there's much to say as far as like an Undertaker match that I really didn't like. Like, okay, you brought up Undertaker and Rey Mysterio. I could see that, but for me,
Well, everyone's gonna say Undertaker and Giant Gonzalez.
yeah,
At WrestleMania. They had other matches on Raw. Yeah, they had other matches on Raw. But the one that sticks out was WrestleMania 9.
yeah,
There was also the feud with Yokozuna. And
yeah,
it's pretty cool, It was Undertaker disappearing for a bit and then coming back. I can't remember when now. I think I just saw that too. So he left in the Royal Rumble in '94,
yes,
and then SummerSlam, I think it was. Yes, it was. Undertaker versus Undertaker.
yep.
That was pretty cool. Never did find out who the other Undertaker was. But
Oh, what the hell was his name? Um, shit, I know it too. I can't remember it right now. I know what it is though. Um, apparently I had seen something. Uh, sometimes there'll be uh things on a website about wrestlers, and one was wrestlers that you wouldn't believe or think were related or something, and one was the Undertaker and the fake Undertaker were apparently cousins.
Hmm.
I can't think of his name though right now. Yeah, the
Mm.
fake Undertaker, if you will.
Yeah, well,
I'm sure it'll probably come to me
Yeah.
at some point.
but you go through the evolution of the Undertaker. Here's a guy that came out. It looked like one of the guys from the Unforgiven movies. He had the fedora hat, but he had the long trench coat, kind of like his last couple of years. It was a different one though. He had the long curly gray hair, or red hair,
Red hair, yes. And the
coming out.
big, thick gloves that he kept having to fix because they were too small or too big or whatever.
There was a point where I thought when he threw the guys in the turnbuckle, and he was like choking them, I thought there was gas coming out of the glove. It was like because I heard this. It turns out it was just him.
Yeah.
But one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, a goat, if you will. Very cool, very a legend. What?
But not that kind of
No.
greatest of all time, just abbreviated.
Not like Daniel Bryan, but so I mean, he's gonna be missed. No, he's not dead, but he's gonna be missed.
Oh, he's for sure could be missed by.
Oh yeah,
fans.
that's what I was gonna say. So you get him, and then you had Undertaker grow his hair longer. He went from gray to purple gloves. He was a little bit more colorful.
Yeah.
And then they had to
Went
get
from red hair to black hair.
red hair to black hair. Then he had the gimmick where he was all black. And then the Ministry, which was interesting enough. That's the thing. It adapted through the years,
Yes.
because it was like, okay, you had the cartoonish guy, but when you had the gothic, because I think goth was really in at the time, the vampire shit, so which was cool.
Yeah.
But he had the Ministry, and then he had the Undertaker with piercing on his eye, and different outfit, doing with black weddings and
The teardrop tattoo on his.
the teardrop tattoo.
on his eye. Yeah, the
Putting
black
glass
wedding with Stephanie and her on the cross, and then
Yeah.
Austin coming out.
on the cross.
Yeah.
And then American Badass, which a lot of people didn't really like. I think they thought it was stupid. I thought it was just upgrading the character because
Yeah. It was.
it was a new decade. So why the hell not? But then they quickly
Reverted back
to
to
the dead man,
the
and
Undertaker.
then that's how it all ended. So
But they went from these burial gloves, if you will, to what I guess would you say is the fingerless gloves, like the MMA gloves.
yes, yeah, and I think
I think those worked out a lot better.
what's
for
also cool about him was that he was someone I never thought would bring MMA to WWE. Like, I mean, you have guys like Ken Shamrock and Dan Severn, but in Undertaker's later years, he would be doing moves that you would see in the UFC, like judo, like the Kimura lock and whatever else.
Well, the Hell's Gate
Hell's
was
Gate, yeah.
a variation of the triangle choke. Only
Yeah.
instead of putting the leg behind the head and then putting your other leg over top and your ankle behind the knee and pulling down with the opponent's arm across their chest, their face, and pulling down on the back of their head. He just did the triangle and put their head on put their throat on his shin and pull down on the back of their head.
Yeah. Yeah. It also caused some of the victims to bleed out their mouth,
Yes.
which only happened a few times and then
Yeah.
it stopped. But unfortunately, Undertaker. So Undertaker was the WWE champion, I think, 4 times.
I believe it was actually 7.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, because he was also world champion.
Yes.
But and then hardcore champion, tag team champion, both WCW and WWE because of the invasion angle.
Right.
I really enjoyed the run with him and Kane with Austin and Triple H.
That was good.
That's a good feud. But
The Brothers of Destruction against
the 2-man power trip.
yes.
I really do wish that Undertaker would have at least held the Intercontinental Championship at least once. But I don't know if that would have been like believable.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one.
And in any case, Undertaker will always be a legend in the business, like everyone else. Like I said before, people have to go eventually, and there's never gonna be another one like him.
No.
And
I mean, they could try to see if they can come up with a wrestler that has a dark side, but
even Bray Wyatt can't be another Undertaker type.
no.
That's never gonna happen. But do you have anything else to say? In this video, I thought of a few things, and now I'm just trying to think of them.
I believe at some point, and I'm sure Matt, you probably feel the same way, Undertaker for sure has got to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, without a doubt.
Well, yeah, 2018 should be Undertaker in the Hall of Fame for sure.
Yeah.
That would be a shame if that didn't happen. He doesn't have any bad blood, so they're not going to wait a few years like they did with Randy Savage or Warrior.
Yeah.
So, yes, I definitely think that Taker should be in the Hall of Fame. And it's a shame that Paul Bearer passed away a few years ago, and he won't be able to do it. Could possibly be Kane.
Kane, maybe Mick Foley.
Maybe Mick Foley or Shawn Michaels, maybe.
Yeah. Could maybe say Triple H, do
Triple H, Jake the Snake. Hell, even King Kong Bundy. I don't know.
If they could find
the guy. Yeah.
Wherever the fuck he is.
But, it was a good WrestleMania. And people said it was a bit too long. But I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Basically, 5 o'clock in the evening till midnight, more or less.
Yeah.
So, 7 hours, call it.
Yeah, I've
2 hour pre-show plus a 5 hour WrestleMania.
Yeah, I don't count how many hours there are. I don't think this is the longest WrestleMania, but I think they just wanted to include everybody. So,
True.
Which is alright. It is what it is. It's supposed to be your biggest show of the year.
Well, they were billing it basically at like 4 hours, right?
Yeah.
But I think because the last few WrestleManias have been on their own network. They don't give a shit how long it goes. I mean, like you said, this year went from 7 till midnight. Last year pretty much did the exact same thing, so WWE's not gonna give a shit. They're making money off it.
Yeah, and that's the whole point of it, I guess. Making money, which is what everybody does. But so, you know, it's it was an honor to watch the Undertaker in his career. I didn't know, like I said, I didn't start watching wrestling till '92, so I saw him then. But I did see matches with him and when he started, but still, I was one of the coolest guys that are pretty much one of my favorite athletes and will probably be the biggest influence on other people.
Oh yeah.
And if you were a wrestling fan before and you're not now, then
You're not gonna be.
unfortunately, no. Anyways, so that was our topic of The Undertaker. I know it wasn't that long, but
Well, it kind of was because we
yeah.
got interrupted, so it's a two-parter. So you combine the two, long enough.
Yeah. Anyways, so for Killer Kyle, this is me and Matt, Wheels of Fury. Talk to you soon.
And I think an appropriate way to end this video would be thank you, Taker,
Thank you, Taker.
and may you retire in peace.
Thank you for everything that you gave us. And, yeah, thank you for everything. You know, you'll always be in our memories. I don't know why I'm talking about him like he's dead. But no, seriously, thank you for being there, being a big part of our lives. And, yeah, you know, that's pretty much all I could say.
This is Wheels of Fury.
Wheels
We'll
of
see
Fury.
you again
See you later.
soon.
Yeah.